Yeah, it happens. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Tuesday, which means it's Nat-C Tuesday. And we got to hear from the head of the new Nazi army and military attempt at being the head of the new Nazi military army.
Yeah.
Pete Pegseth himself. I said Pegseth, not Hegseth. That was
Shouldn't it be Pigset?
no, I said Pegseth because he seems like someone who enjoy. Um, I'm not saying anything. He then again, my friend Jacob said he was like actually that's an insult to people who like pegging, get pegged. And Hegseth isn't a real man, so. I guess not. We'll scratch the Pegseth for today. But Hegseth are dear fascist, Christo-fascist, Christo-Nazi, nationalist asshat. Um,
Yeah.
it gave a very interesting threat today to our military. Hey, Dana, welcome, as well as everybody else as you're coming rolling in with us. We had a really interesting threat today by the SecDef and a whole bunch of others, or specifically Trump. He and Trump gave some really bad speeches. Really, really. Um,
Did you hear about the new
uh,
PT standards?
oh, I listened to the whole thing. I listened to everything.
So
They,
women will have to
they,
pass men's PT or they don't get to stay in?
uh, I mean, it's also undoing all of the work that was done by Melissa Corrigan and groups that she worked with to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, to allow gay service, LGBTQ service members to openly serve
Mhm.
and not get kicked out because they were either open or closeted. Like we're bringing the service back in time,
Mm-hmm.
again. Um, and so it lines up really well with what I wanted to talk about today, which was another sermon or to review another sermon from Pete Hegseth's church, the Christ Kirk Church out of Moscow, Idaho.
Right.
Um, and they are a nationalist Christian church. They are fascist. They're promoting fascism. They're promoting Christofascism and theonomy. Um,
Right.
and Pete Hegseth is part of a dominionist movement
Mhm.
to take over our country. And one
Right.
of the main pieces is the military.
Oh, yeah.
And today there was a loyalty test demanded of all of our generals and flag officers with 10 new warrior directives, which, by the way, no one in the military calls themselves warriors. You're a goober if you do. Like, you're stupid. Um, and um, and he specifically told the generals, if you disagree with anything I said today, you may as well resign. And there's more to come from all of this. And then Donald Trump painted anyone he claims are radical leftists
Mm-hmm.
as insurrectionists today. And he
That
said that
includes Democrats.
we are the enemy from within, that we are already at war, that firefighters in inner cities are being shot up with bullets while they're going up on ladders. The last I heard of a firefighter being shot was in Moscow, Idaho, when two firefighters, I think it was Moscow, a couple months ago,
That
when
kid did
that
they
MAGA
lured them
kid
in. Yeah.
murdered two firefighters.
Mm-hmm.
That Groiper MAGA right wing extremist
Yep.
killed two firefighters. Not liberals, not Democrats, not inner city, not a black kid, not
No,
a brown person,
not a trans person
not
even.
a trans person, not even someone who even had a knowing of trans people. Like you couldn't even put the pin in that one. It was a MAGA kid who was
That's why it's not part
radicalized.
of their terrorism list.
Yep. Which is somehow interesting that it's become part of the terrorism list against us because he's talking about us. He's talking about you and me and everyone in this crowd. And we need to stop pretending that he's not declaring war on the American people. Like he literally said it today. He said to use those dangerous cities as training grounds for the Department of War to conduct war fighter operations and train as though you were
against
in war
people in the
against
United States.
American citizens. Because you cannot tell who is or is not an American citizen until after the fact. That's the thing about being an American is it's hard to tell if we're citizens or not a lot because we don't carry around citizenship identification um, and things like that. So please, this is also just a general note is please be careful out there. Please be conscious of your surroundings. Please be aware of what is going on. Do not allow yourself to be put into a dangerous situation where you have no options. Women, do not go out alone. Men who speak out and have open views, don't go out alone either. I am saying go with friends, and that's terrifying that we live in a country where we are being terrorized by our government. So all of this to build into is one, welcome, Lisa. I'm going to give you some time to chat and say hi. Is we're going to be reading another sermon from Pete Hegseth's church or reading through pieces of it and analyzing it. And today's sermon is called Reading History Rightly. And I think it's very important to talk about sermons like this while history is being rewritten in front of our eyes.
It's interesting because the sermon goes to Cyrus, and I don't know how many people know this, but the evangelicals who kind of were on the fence about Trump, they were sold that he was the Cyrus of their times, that God worked with unbelievers as well, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. They were literally told, vote for this guy who doesn't fit any of our values because we can get power with him, which is such an incredibly jaded and worldly way to pick a leader, especially if you're supposedly a Bible believing Christian. Sit there and go, well, we will get this multiple bankruptcy, multiple marriage, cheated on wives left and right, arrogant prick, and we're going to vote him in because he'll give us what we want. And that's just,
Yes.
we have no values except for tormenting other people.
Yep.
Is
That
pretty much what it comes down to.
Yeah.
It's
That
really
seems
sad.
to, and I'm going to say this, and I may hurt some people's feelings for a second, but anyone who I hurt your feelings, I have also heard most of my life, all men are bad or all men are dangerous. And I know I'm not one of them. So I'm going to say something that might hurt some of your feelings for a second. All Christians are dangerous. All Catholics are dangerous right now. All Mormons are dangerous. Anyone who is a nationalist specifically is dangerous. But unless proven otherwise or showing otherwise, I have to assume hostile intent from a Christo-fascist country that the churches are not here to protect me because the majority of what is happening to our country and where we are headed is due to Christian fascism.
Mm-hmm.
And unless we're willing to admit that Christians are the problem right now, and Catholics are the problem right now, and Jewish people are the problem right now, that Abrahamic religions are the problem right now, we're never going to solve this problem. We're never going to move on. Unless you show me, like Tim Whitaker. Tim Whitaker has shown me that the new evangelicals are a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
That I could come as who I am and be safe amongst them.
Right.
He would understand when I say all Christians are dangerous right now in America, because I do not know if you think I should go to Palestine and burn on a temple and be gathered with all the other Jewish people to begin a holy war. I do not know if you fly a Nazi flag in your house. I do
Mm.
not know if you would rather see me and my children and my parents and my family put into concentration camps and murdered. And that's what America has become, or is becoming, unless Christians stand up against it. Because I can't convince a Christian to not believe this shit. But a Christian can, because it's your faith. And you guys have to own it. You have to be actively anti-nationalist. Like, men have been told, if we want to show that we're safe, we have to be actively anti-racist. We have to be actively anti-prejudice, which is absolutely true. So if you're a church and you are safe, go be actively safe. Like, now is the fucking time, or it won't ever happen. Like, now is the time, friends, because we're also about to read a text called Reading History Rightly, about people who are whitewashing, literally, history. So let's get into the introduction. We'll breeze through the introduction and then we'll go right into the text. I don't really want to give too much time on this intro. Um, But if you've ever had the misfortune of assembling a piece of IKEA furniture, you know the challenge of making sure you get each piece in the right spot. There's no room for imagination when it comes to the parts. You would be indignant if someone had purposefully wrongly labeled all the parts. Unbelieving man has imagined that he can infallibly interpret the story of the world with no regard for how the author of the story has structured the story. This is the assembling the furniture with all the pieces mislabeled. So let's preface that as he thinks everything we do is already wrong. Like, that's my impression of the text, is everything that can or will be done is already wrong because we're fallible. It feels
We
like
are
original
born with
sin.
original sin, is their point.
So would they believe in original sin? Because that's a Catholic thing, isn't it?
Yes,
Not a
they
Christian
believe.
thing?
Well, it's weird. Okay, because I was trying to talk about this to someone else the other day. They believe in original sin. They believe we are born into a fallen world and we are born with sin in us. Now, they believe we are not held accountable for our sin, and they only do this because they can't come up with a righteous reason why God would kill babies and send them directly to hell. They have something called the age of accountability, which is when a person is old enough to be held responsible for their mistakes.
Okay. Oh,
And
yeah, we were talking about that. That's like
right,
the arbitrary 13 or whatever.
yeah, or 10 or 12. I mean, you
Whenever a
see,
girl gets her period, a boy,
no,
his
no,
testicles
it
drop.
isn't related to that. No, it isn't
Interesting.
related to that. It's in fact like if you are, say, severely Down syndrome and don't have a very high functioning IQ, they would say that person never really has an age of accountability
Well,
because you
that's at
can't.
least graceful of them
It
to
is, but
not
there's no place
condemn.
biblically to put it. It doesn't
Yeah.
actually exist biblically,
Oh,
but
how holy of them to not condemn disabled people to hell for the rest of their lives
only
just for
mentally
being,
disabled. Physically disabled can go to hell.
just for existing. Like, what a wow.
And small
So nice of
children.
them. So nice of them. So nice of them. If you can tell, I'm not happy with today, right now. Like, we just witnessed a loyalty test this morning, and a dumbass fucking rambling madman nonsense and dribble filled with things like insurrectionists and we're at war, and it's all promoted because of these ideologies. It is part of the playbook. I was listening to the Five Stack with Dean Blundell, Zev Shalev, and Lev Parnas on it today. And Lev said something important about all of this is we're past the point of distractions. Now is all implementation. Like everything that is about to happen or is happening is the implementation phase of Project 2025. They've gotten their key structure pieces in the back. When or if when the Republicans shut the government down at the end of the day,
Hmm.
assuming they do, because it's going to be the Republicans' fault. They have the power to not shut our government down. They are going to implement as much of this agenda as they can without accountability.
And they're
So,
going to try to fire at least 75% of most of the government services.
yeah, it's going to be, um, I'm, I'm very concerned about what is going to happen in the next couple months and years in America.
Me too.
And I hope people are beginning to build their communities as quickly and as strongly as possible because you're going to need them. You're going to need people with and around you to support you. You're going to need to help and support other people if you can,
Mhm.
um, because services are going to be taken away. This doesn't quite have to do with like the reforming history and stuff, but today was a lot of reforming history in real time.
Mhm.
Um, And so let's read into the text of today's story, which is Reading History Rightly. What is the subtitle? Wise Master Builder. And this is from the Livingstone Reformed Church, which is part of the Christ Kirk Church. And there's a link if anyone wants for the text, and so we're going to get into it. So the text. Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be filled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and put it also in writing, saying, Thus saith Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord God of heaven hath given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he hath charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which, which is in Judah. Who is there among you of all his people? His God be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of the Lord God of Israel. He is the God which is in Jerusalem. And whoever remaineth in any place where there sojourneth, let the men of this place help him with silver and with gold and with goods and with beasts beside the free will offering for the house of God that is Jerusalem, or that is in Jerusalem. And so there was the text of the uh, from Ezra. I don't know how the nomenclature works. Um,
Is
what is it?
there
It's one FF, whatever that
one
is.
one and following is probably what that means.
Oh, okay. Um,
So that yeah, Ezra 1 and following is probably what the double F means. And then the other ones down there later is EPH is Ephesians 2:21. 2:2
yes.
is back into Ezra.
Yeah, so let's go into a little bit, I guess, of the summary of the text. They're talking about Cyrus being foretold as the king who would bring about the restoration of Jerusalem. Um, it's a lot about the restoration of Jerusalem for the
Mm,
first part. What I really wanted to get into in this one was towards I think it was the potentate of time.
mhm,
Um, and the idea of history and how we read it,
mhm,
um, and how history is defined by those who write it or those who are remaining from it, or those who twist it and use it. Um, and obviously, I want to read through the potentate of time portion, and
Hmm.
then get your thoughts on it, and what you see, or what you think, coming from someone who has experience inside of a
Hmm.
church historically of nationalist Christian origin and who broke away from it, and was able to find better path, I guess, a more Jesus-like path,
I
more,
hope so.
um, and so let's get into some of the ways they talk about it, because what I've noticed in all of
Hmm.
this is those that, like Pete Hegseth, this is not the first sermon that we've read from the same
Right.
pastor, is that they're good orators. They know
Oh,
how to
yes.
speak.
That's
And
that's a big
Hegseth,
part of pastoring.
yeah, and Hegseth proved it today. Like he was a he was an orator today. He gave a well presented, well polished fascist speech.
Hmm.
Um, and he made it sound less fascist because he used nicer words and words that people didn't understand.
Mm.
And he twisted history, and used historical context out of context to make his point.
That's pretty common for their playbook.
Yeah. So let's go into the potentate of time. In that wonderful hymn, Crown Him with Many Crowns, we find a wonderful title for God, the potentate of time. Ezra and Nehemiah, did I say that right?
Nehemiah is how I've always heard it.
Nehemiah. Okay. Ezra and Nehemiah show us this truth quite clearly. The stage is being set for the NT is end times,
No, New
for the
Testament.
NT, New
New
Testament.
Testament.
Why you gotta shorten things? The scribal
It's
tradition of
typing.
Ezra brought, they're doing a summary and they're shortening things that they have not introduced, at least at this late in the summary. The scribal tradition of Ezra brought out the best, Paul, and the worst, uh,
Pharisaical pride.
Pharisaical pride in Israel. We also see that those Jews who remained in their various settlements prepared the ground for the seed of the gospel to be cast by the apostles. The Magi, or the Magi, who brought gifts to the Christ child had learned of the star which would hail the birth of the Messiah King from these exiled Jews. Matthew informs us that Zerub, Zerub,
Zerubbabel.
Zerubbabel,
Zerubbabel.
Zerubbabel, Zerubbabel, I don't know. Zerubbabel. I do not mean to make fun of people who actually believe in like true
It's,
Christian faith.
I would probably
Um,
go Zerubbabel, or Zerubbabel on the two.
Zerubbabel is one of the ancestors of Christ. Isaiah foretold Cyrus' magnanimous work to rebuild God's house. Jeremiah too foresaw God's hand upon the steering wheel of world events. Do you want to stop there and um,
No, I just saw this really ironic headline today. I don't know if I sent it to you or not.
no, probably
Um,
not yet.
Hang on, let me. I shared it in Signal so I can pull it up so I can quote it directly because it was just too funny. Um, and I sent it into a meme chat there, so I know I have a picture of it there because otherwise I'm gonna get it off my phone, which is a bit of a problem. Anyhow, the headline in the entertainment, I forget which publication is, but this is the actual headline. Grammy-winning songwriter Brett James, who co-wrote "Jesus Take the Wheel," dies in plane crash.
Oh, yeah, I did remember seeing Jesus did not take that steering wheel. Jesus went, whoops.
It's like,
That's
oh my
Alicia.
goodness, I don't know why it hit me so funny today, but I was like, oh my god.
Jesus, take that wheel. Nope, we're crashing. Yes, sound effects included. No, we are not making,
It's not
yes,
nice.
we are making, I am actually, I'm done apologizing for making fun of dead
I
people
love
who
irony. I can't help
sucked.
it.
Like irony, I named the Jesus take the wheel. Because Jesus did not take that wheel. Jesus freeloaded it and said, "Free bird, bye, I'm out." Shucks. Anyway,
I couldn't believe it when I
there
read that. I'm like,
is no,
oh, you
no.
can't make that up.
So,
Back to what
that's back to where we were, which is
it's just that whole
they
steering wheel thing just got
the
me.
yeah, the whole steering wheel, they're guiding us towards a Cyrus sort of thing. And I'd love to talk about the importance of Cyrus in all of this and why they're using that symbology and that terminology to describe like a lot of the moments that are going on.
Historically, the Jews are in exile now. And they were, of course, sent away in part because they had fallen away from worshiping the true God, da da da, yada yada. And Cyrus is what has been the justification of MAGA for Trump, for the people who are like, this guy is a cheating serial adulterer who's been bankrupt. Why are we electing him? Everyone's like, well, Cyrus was on.
Hold on, I lost you. Can anyone hear us? Lisa, I cannot hear you.
Anyhow.
Oh, there you're back. Now you're back.
Yeah, someone started calling me at the wrong time of day.
Mid
And
sentence.
it's somebody who gets my outside of normal hours thing, so they came right across anyhow. Um, but no, so they've been comparing Trump to Cyrus forever anyhow. So it's interesting that they are kind of foreshadowing back to Trump in this. They're kind of hinting, Cyrus is the good guy, and here we're talking about how God is sovereign with our Cyrus for now. It's hinted at without being, talked about, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, I've heard the Cyrus comparison a lot, and that's
Hmm.
why this one stuck out in places was because it is all about Cyrus and that message of like follow this who doesn't seem like a good leader.
Yeah,
Um,
it's ironic because Cyrus gave them money from his treasury to rebuild the temple and Jerusalem. That is not what is happening with our current quote unquote Cyrus. He's taking money
well,
from the poor, he's bilking money out of people. He is not
yes,
paying
he's
to
not using
rebuild
his
anything.
money.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Our modern day Cyrus is the robber baron version of Cyrus, where he takes all our money first and then goes, "Oh, look, see, I'm giving all my money away," but
Mhm.
hasn't touched any of his money. Like,
Right.
how do I know this? Just because Donald Trump did that during his criminal investigations, is he grifted off all of his followers and said,
Mhm.
"Oh no, help this billionaire survive these litigations," and he used all the
Right.
MAGA money instead of his to
Mhm.
rebuild his temple
Mhm.
and his area of worship himself.
Right.
He had his own Cyrus moment. Like he built himself back up on the backs of all these people.
Right.
Um, yeah. And Cyrus, this,
And I
this, com-
can't skip ahead on you, or I would, but
yeah. So
the
let's
next.
get into the next part. Cyrus sucks in
Mhm.
this. Our modern day Cyrus sucks, especially. Okay. God really is sovereign over all the movements of humanity. History is not the incoherent ravings of a lunatic. That apparently they are. Not reading from the text at this very second. Apparently they are the mad ravings of a lunatic. Because we listened to the ravings of a mad lunatic earlier today. At least I did, so other people didn't have to. Is he's fucking insane.
Mhm.
And but anyways, raving mad lunatic. So we shall begin again without interruption on that part. Uh, God really is sovereign over all the movements of humanity. History is not the incoherent ravings of a lunatic. History is the display of God's purposes continually being brought to pass. This is lesson we persistently forget to our own peril. So then, if we are to read our own moment in history rightly, it must be by beginning with this fact: God is the potentate of time. He is the Lord of history. He is the emperor over every circumstance. Generations come and go, each getting a short sentence in this epic story. In our pride, we presume we can finish the entire story ourselves. But as C.S. Lewis pointed out, a story is precisely the sort of thing that cannot be understood till you have heard the whole of it. To read history rightly requires you to live by faith in the God of history. We know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose.
Mhm. Oh, there's so much in this.
Yep.
Okay. First off,
Take it away.
when okay, part of what this is doing is this is encouraging everyone to stay the course. Because right now they're getting a lot of things. They're going, wait a second, I can't sell my soybeans. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do this. I can't do that. This is telling them God is sovereign. God is going to take care of all this. And it doesn't matter what you're suffering right now. Stick to the course because it's what God wants for you. I mean, it just keeps going back and forth to the lordship of God and the fact that you have to believe everything's working because you were told it was by your pastor. And it's a really quick need, that's a really quick leash yank for anybody who's being a believer in this is, yes, I've got to rely on God doing the right thing. This has nothing to do with me. This has nothing to do with my choices. It's all about God. And
Yeah.
so it also encourages them, of course, then to keep voting the same direction too, because they got to believe God's in this. Um, it, it's it is such a heresy in so many ways. They are taking over the world for God when Jesus himself said, "My kingdom is not on this earth." It. I just think if they would actually live like Jesus, it would be like the most powerful religion in the world.
Yeah, if they actually lived like Jesus, I would be a Christian. Like,
Yeah.
I like the practices
Hmm.
of like caring for your neighbor and loving thyself,
Isn't it Mahatma
uplifting the
Gandhi
poor.
who said he loved our Jesus but didn't like our Christians? Wasn't
Yeah,
that Gandhi?
yeah, I think so. Um, and it's true. Like, I like Jesus, but I don't like Jesus followers most of the time. Like, a lot of Jesus
Well, the ones
followers
that
are
get the microphones are all assholes. I mean,
yeah, and they have a permission, and now they have a very, very big permission structure
yes,
to
they
go
do.
ahead and unleash the worst of it because they see that their Cyrus or God's chosen vehicle um, is corrupt and can do all these things. And that it's predetermined. Like it's predetermined, so it really doesn't matter what their actions are because God has already chosen your actions. God
Predestined and foreordained.
predestined you to take this path, so why fight it? Why fight the fascism when you could just join it? It's easier. God said it's right. Well, that's literally how all religions have been taken over and turned into weapons and vehicles of war since the beginning of religion. Like most Muslims are not violent extremists. In fact, 99.9% of them probably aren't. It's the small, small, small percentage that got all the news and said all the shitty things and then turned more people extreme. Just like the Christians, the Roman Empire, the Holy Roman Empire, and then the expansion of Christianity through Europe happened by force. Like they didn't just become Christian. You were given the option
Forcibly.
basically of become Christian or die or become
Mhm.
our slave. Like those were your options. Um, so I that it's a very violent takeover religion anyway, to be totally honest. Like, can we be open about our own histories for a little bit? Judaism is a very violent religion too. Like, I'm not calling out Christianity specifically. Judaism is a very violent religion. The god of your religion is the god of war from the Zoroastrian pantheon. Like, he broke off and killed the rest of the pantheon basically in his story and said, I am the god of gods,
Right.
saying there are other gods. I'm just the biggest of them all. Sounds pretty presumptuous and patriarchal to me, is that this big old god of war decided he gonna take over everybody else and just say that he's bigger than everybody.
And his
Um,
wife disappeared.
and his wife disappeared. Yep. Just man, just God man. Big old sky daddy coming down and telling you how to live your, not telling you how to live your life, but not, and giving you free will, which is the weird part. Like, we have free will. How does free will fit in with predestination and all of
Everybody
this?
often wonders that, I'll be
Because
honest.
that is a paradox that
It is a
does not
paradox.
fit.
It is a paradox. And, it's part of it is the whole God is outside of time thing, which says then that God knows everything you'll do because as far as he's concerned, he sees all time at once.
So the potentate of God is he is not, time
That's
is not
temporal.
linear to God.
Right,
Time is time is all things at all time.
right. He's extemporal. He's outside of time.
All again, just it all just feels like an easy and convenient way to say, I'm gonna do really shitty things while I'm alive and claim that it's all part of God's plan.
Well,
And that God will forgive me because I said some words when I was here on earth, or I followed his Cyrus messenger
there is.
to the end of time and the
Now,
destruction of my country and killing my countrymen and debasing myself in greed and all of these other things we were told not, like, God and the Bible specifically preaches against. Like, um, they're following a Cyrus who literally is the Antichrist in there, would literally be the Antichrist. Like, he is against everything they believe in. So it's
and
lazy.
I'm commenting back to cult
Yeah, no,
triggering.
yeah, no, to me, it's lazy though, is what the potentate of time is about God, is it's lazy reasoning because there is no real answer to, if I have free will, how am I predetermined to do my actions? Um, and so I think that the potentate of time is just lazy philosophy. It's just lazy theology.
Well,
Um,
I tell you, it's a great way to control your people.
it is. It is a great way to control your people, but it's really lazy. Like, and you can't get mad at people when they poke holes into it when you left holes in it that a 3-year-old can poke holes into. Like, if 3 and 4-year-olds and kids who are just learning to talk and like just, sorry, let's go even a little, 5-year-olds. Let's say 5-year-olds. 5-year-olds are poking holes into Christianity in these stories. And
Mhm.
you're giving them the laziest answer because you don't want to learn it yourself. Like, you don't even want to take a moment to educate yourself a little bit on history, that you are so lazy that you're going to let your pastor teach it to you again and not learn it yourself. Um, because what in the end this is saying to me, especially as we get closer and closer to things like AI taking over control of a whole bunch of sectors of our life, and being pushed into us, is we already believe history based off what Google tells us. Is, if it's not on the first page of Google, most
And
people
they
don't
have
look at
been
it.
editing the heck out of Wikipedia lately
And they
for
are
far righting.
editing the hell out of our resources, and they're changing the
Mhm.
algorithms.
Yep.
YouTube, which is part of Google, which is part of Alphabet Corp,
Right.
just paid 20 something million dollars
Yep.
to the Trump administration to pay for the ballroom and other litigation from the American conservative group, some American conservative group, to edit information and edit history in real time and change history. So their potentate of time is AI and the internet because the people believe the internet is forever. People believe that the internet is unchangeable. The
Hmm.
internet is ones and zeros. The
Yeah.
internet is just data stored in a really big,
Yeah.
um, in a big data warehouse spread across the world, like big data warehouses. That's the internet. It's not real. It can be changed. Those values are changeable. They're mutable. They're not immutable. They are not immutable truths. They're they're mutable. They can be changed, and that's scary. Um, to think because if you can't trust the information you're researching, how do you know what to trust? And that's where they want to get us to, is where the only thing you trust again is your pastor or your faith leader of whatever sort it is, or Donald Trump at the head of the government, or Pete Hegseth telling the military that they must obey his orders, or you may as well just retire. Um,
And not get paid your
that's
retirement.
Yeah, not get paid your retirement. And if you think anything small that I say is not right, then you may as well just retire. Because I thought a lot of things Pete Hegseth said were wrong. And there were a lot of faces in that crowd that looked pretty displeased with what they were hearing today.
It's because supposedly the officers are taught how to recognize valid and invalid orders.
Yes,
So
that is,
they see something coming down that they are not sure what they're going to do with.
yes, yes, that is, yes. They are unsure what
Yeah.
is the next step. That should scare us more than it does. Like, they should be pretty damn sure what the next step is right now. And it should be all 800 of them gather back in a room and remand Pete Hegseth to Leavenworth and take Donald Trump under arrest, and Pete and JD Vance and the administration for violating the Constitution
Right.
and for inciting violence against other Americans
Right.
and for violating the oath of office to faithfully execute the laws of the land, to faithfully execute our laws, which, by the
Neither
way,
are the
he
GOP in
lifted his
Congress and the
hand
Senate.
up off that Bible when he said it. He did not put his hand on that Bible. He did
Oh,
not
really?
swear to a God or no God. He didn't swear to the Constitution. He didn't swear to God. He just put his hand up and said the words
Hmm.
emptily. And
He
it's
never meant to
showing.
believe any of it.
He never meant it. He never meant it because he's their Cyrus. He is he is their word of God, and they're rewriting history around him
Hmm.
to
Well, they're
fit the
rewriting history for themselves
incoherent
too,
ravings of a lunatic.
because
So yeah,
they
they
just
are.
want the whole slavery was beneficial thing. That's what all of them want to say, not just
Yes.
the president.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. He Yeah, he is using the power and the office to rewrite history,
Hmm.
whitewash history. We've seen it also. Part of this is like the attack on the Smithsonian, changing things in there, removing the mention of his impeachment, trying to get things wiped off,
Yeah.
yada, 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 all that other things that we were like, oh, it's a distraction. It's a distract. No, it wasn't. A lot
They're
of us
just
said
flooding the
these
zone with
aren't
so much shit that you
distractions.
don't know what to look at next.
Yeah, like it's none of this is a distraction. It's all implementation. It has been the whole time. They just wanted
Yeah.
us to think it was distractions. And they're rewriting the history of it around it. They're not
Hmm.
allowing us to see the history. They're not
Right.
allowing us to see. That's why they want the government shut down tonight, is because the function of Congress is oversight, is funding and oversight
And they haven't done that
and
all year.
authorizing the military. It is authorizing the military, funding the government, and has become the third component is oversight. which should not be part of Congress. It should be its own independent thing. Talk to Shane Urich about that. He's got some really cool ideas on it. But Congress authorizes and declares war and funds the government.
Right.
We are
And
supposedly at war already with ourselves,
they
which
can use the
nobody has
power
declared
of
a
the
war on.
purse, right? They use the power of the
Mhm.
purse to control the rest of the government, and they've abdicated that responsibility.
They've abdicated the entirety of Congress has abdicated the responsibility. And let's be very clear what has happened too, because we want details. We like information here, right?
Right.
The government has abdicated the Congress has abdicated financing powers, basically, at this
Right.
point, from the entire body of Congress to Russell Vought, the director of budget and management for the White House. He approves and denies the budget and approvals and all sorts of financing approvals. If they want to spend money, got to go through Russell Vought. Apparently his last name is Vote, but as Oh That's Rich says, is I don't care. Until he can say Kamala right, I'm not going to say Vought as vote. So fuck him. Um, Russell Vought is a Christo-fascist. He wrote like major sections of Project 2025. Pete Hegseth is a Christo-fascist. He is part of Project 2025. Mike Johnson is a Christo-fascist. He is part of Project 2025. He flies a Dominionist flag outside of his office. He is the preacher of the house, and they have abdicated the purse strings to the leader or to one of the main writers of Project 2025. The entirety of our legislative branch has given over its power to one
Yes.
person. One
Hmm.
person.
I know.
And that person gets to approve or deny whether we spend the money to bring our generals back to their posts in other parts of the world. The Office of Budget and Management, or OBM, in the White House is the final approving authority for spending. They can say, nah, we don't want to spend this money or
Right.
allow this money to be spent by the military on flying generals back to their posts.
Hmm.
I'm not saying they won't. They will do that. I'm just saying that is a thing they can do. We should think of the worst case scenario and imagine it worse because it's the Trumpian razor. It's worse than Occam's razor because it's the dumbest possible choice. They're going to do it. Not only the worst, but the dumbest. Anyway, going back to our lesson
Yeah.
on rewriting history because they're rewriting history. Sorry, I got off
Mhm.
tangent on that because
It's
it
okay.
is all it's all related though. It's all
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
whole mess is all
the
together.
whole mess is all together. And Pete Hegseth is part of all of it. Um and Pete Hegseth is driving some major decisions in our national defense at the moment,
Right.
to include bringing 800 generals because it was presented as that was Pete's decision to do behind the scenes.
Mm.
That's what it verbally they've all said is Pete basically is that Pete organized this without Trump knowing and was going to use it to pretty much do what he did anyway. Um, and then Trump found out and now he's part of it. But I don't buy that bullshit. I think Trump knew all along. They just wanted to make it sound like he was punishing Pete for something. He was not happy about something. Um, and I just I I think that this was planned anyway, by them. It is no coincidence either that they use certain specific language while they're there. Melissa Corrigan pointed out earlier today that Pete Hegseth no less than 5 times mentioned God. in his speech
Mhm.
during to the generals. And yes, occasionally generals will say the word God. But Pete Hegseth also started his loyalty line chain of who you are most loyal to with
Mhm.
God first. With
Mhm.
he said God, family, Constitution, or something like that. Constitution wasn't first. Constitutional law was not first. God was. That's again, we're rewriting history to fit the narrative that this is a Cyrus moment. And somebody said it earlier too. Cyrus was an outsider
Mhm.
in ways that Trump wasn't or isn't.
Mhm.
Like it's a false Cyrus. But I don't know because I'm I think Trump is outsider enough that he fits their mold, and it would have they they force philosophy or they force prophecy into their narrow lane of what it can mean.
Well, yeah,
And when
when your entire book has to be taken word for word literally, you create some very interesting apologetics around it.
yeah, okay. So we have gotten through at this point too, also talking about the story from C.S. Lewis's quote that you can't understand it until you've heard the whole thing. Yeah, of course, but you also can pick up on the main plot of a story before the end. Like a lot of us are intuitive enough to know where these
Right.
things go and can connect dots. We don't have to be told and walked hand in by the hand through every moment of life. And to me, that's what a lot of this is like it's abdicating as much responsibility away from yourself so that you can live a life of pleasure in a lot of ways, um, without the um, drawbacks because you have given your life over to God um, and you'll be forgiven and it's all a plan. And so why change that plan? Like you want to live your pleasures, that's your free choice as long as you're doing God's work in the end. And it justifies a lot of really bad stuff along the way. So let's get into this next section, which is stirred up. In this first wave of rebuilding Jerusalem, we see God stirring up both a pagan king and his own people. God had shaken the entire world through the various conquests of Assyria and Babylon, and now the Persians. But because God is governs history, he also governs the men in history. He stirs up men to accomplish his purposes. From our perspective, this looks messy. He stirs up great men and small men. He stirs up his people. He raises up kings and brings them low. To us, the world is a sea full of billows and waves. From heaven, that sea is calm and clear as crystal. Here on earth, wicked men seem to go unchecked, unhindered, unimpeded. The word, however, assures us that the Lord will avenge his elect speedily. God is at work in history to make all things brilliantly shine with the glory of the Lord Jesus, who died to redeem us from the wreckage which brought, which
Sin.
sin brought into this world.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that, Lisa,
Not
before
not
we move on?
not I the that one didn't really bother me much. I mean, pretty much just saying, "Hey, God is doing." It's interesting that the Lord will avenge the elect speedily is kind of an interesting thing for them to point out in the current situation. But actually, the last two paragraphs, especially the final paragraph, is really where I've kind of been waiting to talk again.
Oh, perfect. We got them.
Because
The
that's
work before us.
yeah,
We'll spend a little bit extra
that's
time
where they
because I want
start
to make sure you
pushing.
get it. Yeah, because we'll spend a little bit extra time going into this if you've got a few extra minutes today.
I do.
As usual, we always go over. Um, is the final section the work before us? Consider the work which God stirred up his people to do. It was hard work. The sieges had left the city in wreckage. The exiles had become rather prosperous in their new home, and uprooting was a significant sacrifice. The poor had been left to suffer in Jerusalem, so the returning exiles would have to labor to care for these impoverished saints. The economy of Jerusalem was in shambles, the culture disorganized, the city itself a crater. The worship of Jehovah was neglected. Every sphere of life in Jerusalem, religious, political, economic, was about as bad as it could get. Yet God had proposed to build his kingdom of heaven here on earth, and he would not be thwarted. Thus, God moves in quite unexpected ways to bring his purpose to pass. A pagan king nurtures God's people and sets them to work building God's house. We are at a similar moment. God has been shaking our nation in order that only that which is unshakable may remain. As God's people, we must be prepared to follow the mysterious movement of God as he stirs the events of history. This is a summons to be ready to rise up and build. It is a summons to plead with Jehovah, to move upon the hearts of our civilization magistrates, from president to mayor, to defend the Church of Christ. It is a summons to devote yourself and your family with sacrificial courage to build the house of the Lord.
Mhm.
Before you go in, I want you to talk about this with just my one analysis. That is a call to martyrdom.
It can be a call to martyrdom, especially with sacrificial courage. Um, it's also a call to me. It's a call to follow them blindly, because as God's people, we must be prepared to follow the mysterious movements of God. This gives them a permission to not question what's being done. It really does,
Yeah.
and to me, that's kind of alarming because, you know, that this is encouraging people, this is telling people to build the kingdom of the Lord, and, Jesus himself said this his kingdom was not of this world, but they're actually talking about going out and building God's kingdom on earth right now as directed by their leadership, and that part, those last 2 paragraphs actually were probably the part that alarmed me a little bit more than anything else, because it encourages people to A, believe they're martyrs,
Mhm.
and B, believe they're persecuted, and C, go out and take over everything for God because they are persecuted martyrs.
Yeah.
It's not.
I think the part of it that really, one of the parts that really stands out to me and makes
Mhm,
this some of the most alarming is I'll reread just this section again. This is a summons to be ready to rise up and build. It is a
mhm,
summons to plead with Jehovah to move upon the hearts of our civilization magistrates, from president to mayor, to
mhm.
defend the Church of Christ. That is also an open call for theonomy.
It is, especially
They're
because
not hiding it.
their version of theonomy has the magistrates as the ones that invoke the, uh, law, the ones that actually punish. So, they say that an elected magistrate runs the, um, Old Testament law to run the country. And so when they talk about their elected magistrates, they are speaking directly to the future organization where the Old Testament is the law, and the people we elect are the ones who tell everyone to take us to the edge of town and stone us,
Yeah,
which is also a frame. But yes, that's definitely the language of theonomy in there. In fact,
yeah,
also, this is interesting to me. Every sphere of life in Jerusalem, religious, political, economic, was about as bad as it could get. Right now, they're being told that they're being killed because they're Christian. The politics here are a disaster. Our economy is a disaster. So they're sitting here and they're saying, look, this is what they were going through, and you're struggling through the same thing. It's just part of getting built to the real glory that we are going to get to.
Yeah.
And it gives you the workaround that it doesn't matter if Trump's in the Epstein files, he can be a pagan king and still do
Mhm.
God's will. So it doesn't even matter that he's in the Epstein files, folks. There is all of this stuff.
Yeah. He is their Cyrus. He can do what he needs and how he needs because they believe he is the pagan king nurturing them
Mhm.
for God's will to build their house
So anyone who
of,
doesn't believe the baby Christian gets the Cyrus. There's always something they can use because what has driven people like Tim out of Christianity is the cognitive dissonance required
yeah,
to be a Republican and a Christian right now.
yeah.
Um,
Like,
so this gives them two different options for their cognitive dissonance. Either he is a pagan king, so you don't have to hold him to Christian views, or he's a baby Christian and he regrets everything he did before.
yeah,
Either one
yeah,
is acceptable that way.
yeah. And the idea of being ready to rise up and build means that they must be willing to tear down first. Like they have to tear down to rise up and build something. Like you cannot rise up and build something where something already is. You either add
Right.
on to it or you tear it down and build it anew.
Mm,
And they want to tear it down piece
yeah.
by piece using Old Testament, not even really Old Testament, but old Israelite law
Hmm.
to determine stoning and what's good and what's wrong and
Right.
use it into our civil law
Hmm.
and to move upon the hearts of our civilization magistrates from president to mayor,
Hmm.
meaning they believe the president will be a magistrate of the Church of Christ.
Hmm.
They did not say this president, but they said president to mayor. It doesn't mean this one because
Just means
he's
my spirit.
not a representative of the Church of Christ. He is their pagan king getting them set for the next step.
Right.
They're moving on from him in this too at the same time. Like, I think some of what I'm seeing in this, in some of these texts, is that they are finding a way to move on um, from Trump and move to the next phase, which is the actual savior part. Like we only get Cyrus and the like God's people being nurtured by a pagan king for so long
Right.
until God's people must strike out on their own, or build the nation up on their own. And Trump is only around for so long, um, and a pagan king
No,
can
they'll
get
be
them
so
where they need
happy
to be.
if they get themselves a Christian king after their pagan king.
Which, if Trump dies in office, they have the start of it. They have their Catholic king. And if they don't like him, the next in line is Mike Johnson at the moment.
Right.
And there's their Christian king. There is his Moses moment, leading the people across the Red Sea as it parts to leave the slavery of Israel, or sorry, the slavery of Egypt, and wander the desert for 40 fucking years to go 10 fucking miles.
Hmm.
Like, one, Moses, bro, you could have found a compass in that point. There's rocks that like do things. Like you can find shit like that. Look at the stars, man. Like follow the stars. But no, we have Mike Johnson sitting right below all of this, quietly, unassumingly again, holding back information that would allow for history to be truly visible. And we know what has happened in the Epstein files and who is in them and why these theocratic and um, techno fascist assholes are taking over the world. And one of the things we haven't really talked about is actually how readings like this and the philosophy, the pseudo religion of Tescreal, Tescreal. I'll write it down in the chat. Is Tescreal.
Mhm.
It's something I talked about with the opinionated ogre yesterday and Shane Yurk about was that is the pseudo religion of Silicon Valley. One of the things that seems to be blending in all of this is this idea of um, uh, it is a futurism where they believe that their actions don't really it's effective altruism is what they call it.
Okay.
What it means is that they don't care what happens now as long as it's beneficial to the long-term survival of the human race in their opinion, from their worldview of
Oh,
what the
so that
long-term
means that
survival.
climate change still doesn't exist to them.
Correct. That's why climate change doesn't exist. That's why dinosaurs are figments of our imagination and were put into the ground to confuse and test godly people on the presence of the devil. I've heard that one before. Um, but it's also just where we get the backwards nonsense that we're going through of Curtis Yarvin. And how do we get to a house where only those of Jerusalem remain, those worshipers of God who have been most faithful? Well, in Curtis Yarvin's view and Tescreal and fitting into the Society of Christian Nationalism to build their house of God, only 100 million people is the max population of the US. That's what they believe.
Mhm.
There are currently 340 million of us. That means 240 million of us must die for
Right.
their Christian nationalist worldview to come to fruition, because then only they, the poor survivors of this long fight and long, arduous journey, who have been the most fervently reverent and faithful to God, will do the hard work of emerging after this long, oppressive period where they're being
Right.
persecuted and they have to follow this heathen king and be uplifted by his good graces and only his good graces until God comes along and replaces him with the holy king. That is test real too. That is what Silicon Valley is doing.
Mhm.
It's the same philosophy, just using different words. Um, and it's why I think there's such an easy bond between the two at this point. Um, and what it allows them to do is give them this idea that those who do not plead with the summons of Jehovah and do not have civilization moved upon their hearts by the magistrate from president to mayor and defend the Church of Christ, then you don't deserve to be a part of it. And those who are willing to devote themselves must be willing with sacrificial courage
Mhm.
to carry out the will of God. The last group I heard use sacrificial courage to fulfill the will of God. We called them the Taliban and Al Qaeda. And we fought a war against them in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Right.
And they're called terrorists. And we called it jihad because that is the word. That is exactly what sacrificial courage in the name of your Savior is. To build the house of the Lord, to sacrifice yourself, be willing to sacrifice yourself. You must be willing to do sacrificial acts,
Mhm.
such as go shoot people or blow up bombs and suicide vests or do these horrific assassination
Or
attempts.
send them all possible money that you can to support them while they're billionaires.
Yep,
Don't forget
because
that.
yeah, because you poor sufferers of Jehovah will make it through in the end if you just send them a little bit more of your money or a little bit more of your time or your bodily functions because you just need to work a little bit harder and then you'll prove yourself to God because you're not working hard enough. That's why you haven't been lifted out of poverty. It's not because you're giving all your money away and your time away and your resources away to other people. It's because you're not working hard enough.
Mm.
And it's a Christian nationalist philosophy. And again, I'll say this, unless you're a church that has proven otherwise, all Christian churches are, and at this point, are making themselves sound dangerous. Like you're, you
All the ones
don't,
that get camera time, at least.
yeah. And those are the ones that are the mouthpiece for churches right now. Like, if you want to be the mouthpiece for the church, go out and be louder than they are. Like, talk more than they do. Be like Tim Whitaker, who talks all the fucking time. Like, I would much rather hear Tim Whitaker talk and be the mouthpiece for the church than any of these people.
Oh, yeah.
Tim is a radical Jesus follower who loves helping people and caring and doing the lessons of Jesus.
Right.
Like, these people don't. So if you want a good sign of what Christians could or should be, go follow Tim Whitaker. If you want a bad sign of what Christians could or should be and are, go look at Mike Johnson. Um, and yeah, and do not sacrifice yourself to build the house of the Lord, because that is dumb. So if you want to sacrifice anything, sacrifice your time to give back to all the people around you and your
Mhm.
community by building something in your community without tearing everything down first. Like,
Right.
don't destroy your community to build something small and say, oh, look how good I am. Look how cool I am because I built this little hovel that says, pray to me.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. Sorry.
My little
Sorry, y'all.
1948 hovel.
Sorry, y'all. It's not, unfortunately, it's not the best of days for America at the moment.
No.
Um, we're hoping that the generals and their NCOs remember their oaths and take it very seriously. The threat that is being presented in front of them and what they are
Right.
going to then be asked to do when they occupy American cities and
Right.
what that next step will be. And I hope they have the courage to do the right thing in this moment because a lot of them are going to be faced with threats of violence too. The radical right, the
Yeah.
radical fundamentalist right, who is ready to sacrifice themselves for the creation of their house of God,
Mhm.
will do something stupid.
Yeah.
They
Sooner or
always
later.
do. They always do. And it's going to get blamed on one of us. Just
Of course it
not
is.
us specifically, not me and Lisa specifically, but it's going to get blamed on folks like us. It's going to get blamed because we're talking. Like people like us are saying things and we are using our constitutional right and our fundamental freedom to express our opinions about the government without
Doing
fear
our
of being
best.
murdered by the government or other people for just expressing them. So I would ask to help make us more comfortable is more people begin to speak with us.
Yeah.
More people begin to use their platforms to speak out too. More people join in this chorus of voices because it cannot just be a small group. It must be overwhelmingly large.
Yeah.
Um, and I also understand that some of us can't do that. Some of us can't go out and speak in a public way like this.
Right.
But you can go protest. You can use your wallet. You can direct your money and your voice where you want to and tell people where you're not going to spend your money anymore. And if they're enabling fascism, don't spend your money there. With that said, spend your money here. Love us. We would love some subscriptions, paid subscriptions, both of us. Give Lisa a
Even
paid
my
subscription.
birthday.
Give Lisa a paid subscription. Give me a paid subscription if you can. We would love the support. I'm doing this full time as best I can and trying to really build this up. I know Lisa's on here quite a bit too, but also just just support us, become free subscribers, share,
Share as
like, do all the things.
long as
That's
that's
the
that way.
easiest and the free path. But if you have the available money, please send us some, help us grow this network. These networks, yeah, Disney lost over $1 billion in like 3 days. We have a lot of power in this country. Start using it. Start getting your friends collectively to stop doing things like cancel your Amazon Prime subscription. Cancel your Walmart Plus subscription if you have them. Sorry, we're fighting fascism. It's going to be uncomfortable, y'all. Like, cancel shit. Save some money. Send it other people's way who actually need it and use it. And if you're in California, vote yes on Prop 50 here next month or in just over a month. Um, and if you're in Arkansas, this doesn't have to do with Pete Hegseth, but if you're in, it does with Christo-fascist idiots, is Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Yeah.
Um, is if you're in Arkansas, make sure your displeasure is known to our state senators and representatives that Sarah Huckabee Sanders has delayed the election to fill a vacant seat for District 26 Senate seat in Arkansas, covering 3 congressional districts where a prison is set to be built in that has not approved funding yet, and they want to do it without that district's senator. She is holding off the election, which is constitutionally in the state of Arkansas required to be held within 150 days of an office being vacated. She is waiting 230 days.
Well,
Oh,
she
no,
learned that
sorry,
from a shooting.
280 days. She's waiting an extra 130 days to do it. And she thinks that's okay. She's being blasted currently by both Democrats and Republicans. If you live in the state of Arkansas, or if you know others who live in the state of Arkansas, one, share, help me build up my Arkansas friends and this network in Arkansas, but get the word out. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is blatantly violating the Arkansas state constitution, and she should be absolutely held accountable, and she must be impeached and removed for her crime, for holding off an election of duly represented state elected officials, which will leave an entire Senate district for an entire legislative session without a senator. 2, in fact, because they died. The person died, I believe. Like, this is unacceptable. If you want to stop fascism uh, federally, stop it locally. Don't let your states get away with fascism. If you want to stop it federally, shut it down locally. So go to your protests peacefully, patriotically. And if you're in Arkansas, come call our governor. If you're not in Arkansas, also call our governor in her office and make it known that you don't like what she's doing and that she needs to follow the Constitution and that it's not optional to do such things. But anyway, that's my nice monologue at the end.
Okay.
Lisa, any last things to say before we go?
No, keep the faith. There's more of us out here than you might realize. And the big thing, in fact, I started talking to my son about starting to walk the community and sign up voters because there are a whole bunch of people that aren't registered or need to update their registration, etc. So if you have a way to maybe help them do that, that'd be a big thing for right now too.
Mhm.
So that's
All
my
right,
take for today.
good. Good. That's a good way to end it is go be helpful for your community. Go help your
Yep,
friends register. Go help your neighbors register. Go do something for democracy. Um,
get us
Lisa,
going.
yeah,
See you on
Lisa,
Thursday.
be safe. I will see you on Thursday. Everyone, thank you all for being here with us. We truly appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you again on Thursday and have a safe Nat-C Tuesday
Yeah.
as the federal government comes to a grinding halt. Go be local.
Yay.
Go support your communities because we all want it and need it. Love y'all.
Yes.
Thanks later, Lisa.
Bye
Have a
bye.
good one.
You too.